I just stopped looking at things in the moment or one project at a time and really look at the bigger picture. Like, what's your 2-year goal? What's your 5-year goal? Because I feel like that's where a lot of times you're like, oh, if I can hurry up and just dedicate all my time to getting this one done, I'll make all the money in the world or whatever. You're rich for a moment, and then you spent no time investing into the next project or scheduling 2 other projects during that one project and actually didn't maximize your profit.
If you own a construction business, how would you like to grow your team and nearly double your revenue while cutting your hours in half? What is right to left thinking? And what are some of the positive ripple effects that happen when you nail the handoff or when you have a great pre-construction process? Welcome to the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today, plus a lot more. My name is Todd Dawalt. That's spelled D-A-W-A-L-T. I'm your host. And here at Construction Leading Edge, we're all about helping construction business owners have more freedom, more impact, and wealth by systematizing your construction business. Think self-managing company. In other words, a business that runs without you. Here's what you're going to get from this interview with Jacob Richmond, the owner of Richmond Construction, how 2 injuries, one of which was a pretty serious motorcycle wreck, were pivotal points in Jacob's entrepreneurial journey. We talk about the connection between habits and implementing meaningful change in your business. Jacob shares some great advice from a previous boss, some of which he didn't necessarily listen to. And maybe you'll be shocked as I was when you find out the way his boss responded when he resigned. We talk about the power of saying no. Jacob shares how he has grown his team and his revenue dramatically while reducing his working hours and his stress level. He also discusses some of the most impactful things that he learned from our Systematize Your Construction Business program, as well as talks a little bit about his experience in our CEO Alliance program. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Jacob Richmond. Enjoy. Let's start with a little bit of background. Tell us a little bit about your business. What's the name of your company? Where in the world are you located? And what kind of work do you do?
My name is Jacob Richmond. I'm with Richmond Construction. We're located in Washington, out of Marysville. Areas we service is like the King County and Snohomish County area. So mostly Seattle and all the way up the I-5 corridor. We do our basic general contracting, which is small size additions to large size additions. And we also do custom homes, trying to improve that sector. But we also provide like great handyman service as well. But we're definitely trying to grow from that type of work and start specializing in custom homes and larger size additions.
How long have you been in business? And walk us through what you were doing before you started your business, and we'll get into that genesis story just a little bit.
I worked for a large size general contracting company, and we specialized really in TIs and ground up projects. I actually was worked my way into a really desirable foreman for a lot of the ground up projects, so I was pretty skilled in that department. I've done probably 6 different high rises and maybe 6 stories and below, steel structure and all that and above, and PT cable decks, all that stuff. And then as my career grew, I grew into doing more or less assistant superintendent roles for smaller size TIs. I think my first one was like 400K, and was able to knock it out of the park for the most part. And my first 4 projects had 0 punch, which if you come from that realm and commercial TI, it is so hard to achieve 0 punch. And a lot of that was because I would pick up the slack personally, and because I knew what was to be expected, and I'd go out there and throw my bags on occasion and really help keep production and really the quality I wanted to keep going in that direction. But as the projects grew in size, it just became where I was trying to keep it at a minimum. And I grew really quick, but during that process, I did leave the company for about 3 years and started my own business before I became assistant soup. And that's when I learned really quick that just skill level will not create a successful business. And so when I came back after those 2 year, 3 year interval to that company, I had a lot to offer, and that was knowing what it takes to run a business and understanding it a little bit different. And I also wanting to raise my right, like challenge myself to learn more of the management side.
What prompted you? What was going through your head when you went out on your own that first time? What was either frustrating you about what you were doing? What were you trying to get away from with the current job? What were you trying to run toward with having your own business? Tell us a little bit about that, because there are a lot of people listening who are thinking, I'm thinking about starting my own thing, but I'm not really sure. Like, am I the only one? Is this mental illness? Is this entrepreneurialism? What's going on here? So what was going on in your head at that point?
I mean, I've always been super ambitious, and probably a little bit more stubborn than I would have liked to agree to. And at that time, I actually tore my rotator cuff working for a union project down in Seattle. And I was pretty much like mocked, or scolded out of the union because of it. Like I didn't get the support and the respect I really deserved for how hard I worked. And a lot of guys were like, "Oh, you're just trying to find your easy way out," because tearing a rotator cuff, there's not a lot of evidence, unless you do an MRI or something like that that shows that type of stuff. And at that age, I mean, I was pretty young. I was, I think, 25, 26 around that time. Really, it was like I worked my butt off. I worked hard every single day and long hours, dedicated a lot of time to a company where I didn't get really feel like I got the recognition I wanted. And the pay was fine, but I just like I said, I didn't feel valued, and that was more or less in the commercial aspect or in the union. And so that's kind of why I was like, I can go do this on my own or try something different, especially because at that time, I was injured and was laid off. And so it really just kind of happened organically. It was like, well, I need to make extra money to pay the bills. I had two young kids and a wife and, a home and all the things. And so it just kind of developed into that. People knew my work, called me over all the time, started with decks, fences, porches, and grew from there.
When was this? When did you get injured and when did you start your business?
That particular time, I believe it was between like 2015 to 2018.
So you ran your own business for a little while and then you went back to work for this company. What did you realize you were missing that during that first stint of running your own business?
The experience on managing projects from start to finish, like when I worked for the particular company before, the family owned business, it was non union. And I mean, they had an amazing project management and like office team. And not only that, but the superintendents made their jobs look super easy. Everything was outlined, the processes were great. And so by going out on my own, I learned really quick when you're on your own, you're on your own. And, you don't have that support. And I tend to give a lot of people more credit than they deserve. And I only mean that in because I want to see people grow into what I would see in them. And so, like, the people I would bring on and stuff like that were usually always underqualified, and I wasn't able to teach them what I needed them to do for me, and I didn't know how to articulate what I really needed the team to be able to produce. And so that's when I was like, okay, I want to go back into where I was, try to elevate myself into understanding scheduling, understanding, change orders, how to do pretty much everything, how to find organization, software to help support where all this information is going to land. Because at that time, I think everything was ending up in a vanilla envelope, or folder. And that was furthest my organization really went. So a lot of that, became from my experience from the past, and then that one, it was very evident I could do better.
Yeah, I had a similar experience, similar story. It was about 2002. I had been managing projects, been very successful, and I thought, you know what? Why do all of this, make all this money for this other company, this big company? I can go out on my own. And I looked at the fee that we were generating, and I went out on my own. And I thought, I'm really good. I'm building hospitals and office buildings. I'd built a few houses on the side. Thought, how hard could it be? Right? I could build stuff. But then I realized there's a lot more to a construction business than just building stuff. And I was missing out on a lot of stuff. Like you said, when you're on your own, you're on your own. And when you work inside of a big company, there's a lot of stuff that somebody else is doing right now, and you just don't know it. And you don't really appreciate it until you leave. And then you have to do all of that stuff, all the way down to setting up your email box and setting up accounting systems. And there's just so much organization that seems to be natural, and it's all gone when you leave that company. That's an issue for a lot of people who leave companies and go out on their own, who had the same thought process I did. But then also, I think a lot of construction business owners think, well, I'm going to go hire this person who's very successful working for a big company, bring them into my small company, and then they'll set up the systems for me. And that just doesn't seem to work very well either. You went back to work for another company to get more experience with project management on the business side. Then when did you start your business as it exists today?
I started back in 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic. The company I worked for really didn't want me to go, but because of the mandates and everything being shut down, I actually, in the first year and a half of COVID, I actually was working in Salt Lake City, Utah, and because there wasn't as many mandates in that area, and we were having a particular client that had tons of work for our company, and so they entrusted me to go out there and work like 2 weeks on, 1 week off, kind of role. And I was pretty much doing those projects for about, I think it was about 4 months, 5 months. We learned, you can get burnt out being away from your family that long really quick. Parts of it I enjoyed because it really helped me kind of spend that time I needed with me. But also, it just, when I got back, there wasn't much left. So I was able to save up a good amount of money and just kind of knew. I was like, all right, I think this is when, because my plan after that first time, I wouldn't say failing at my business, but just experiencing what I experienced. And I felt at this point I had enough, just enough to get going. So those famous words.
How did you get started? How did you let's talk about one of the big questions people have, which is, okay, I'm working 40, 50 hours a week as a project manager, superintendent, something. I want to have my own business. How did you make that transition? Did you have some work lined up and you got started? Did you do some stuff on the side during your spare time? How did you make that transition work?
It was a really ballsy move on my part, but I was extremely honest to the owner of the company. I actually asked to talk to him directly when I was putting my 2 weeks in, and he took the time to come meet with me. And I told him, I said, I'm really honored to have this opportunity. I don't want you to feel like I used you or manipulate this situation, but this is a weird time we're all in, and this has been a dream of mine to follow for quite some time, and I'm ready to go do this. And his reaction was like, good on you. I mean, his story, his business has been around for over 30 years now, and he started it in a similar position I was in. So I was honest with him. I said, this is something I want to do. And he said, why don't you come to my house and we'll have lunch? And So I was kind of blown away by that. And so I did. I went to his house. We had lunch. He asked me some pretty good questions. What's your business plan? What's going on here? And I didn't really have any of that stuff in order, but I told him from my past experience and all this stuff, I'm going to take the time I need to build this stuff out and go for it. And so he was like right on. He gave me some suggestions. Some I followed, some I didn't. Some I wish I would have followed right from the beginning. But he was actually my first client. He gave me my first referral. So he gave me my first project, which was remodeling, a full remodel on a condo down in Madison Park for his sister-in-law, and it kind of grew from there. His family and a lot of those people that he's involved with became my a lot of my clients. So just off his referrals alone, it kept me busy for quite some time.
What's one recommendation that he gave you that now you wish you would have taken, but you didn't?
Have a business plan. Need to have a business plan, and I didn't truly understand that at the time. I mean, putting things on paper or whatever, but after completing the SYCB program, it was exactly what he was talking about. He was like, you need to have a roadmap. You need to have, like when we started, I believe it in week one, we talked about 5 years. Where do you see your business in 5 years? And then you kind of dumb it down to 2 years, right? That was it. That was really it. Like his advice around that and me not having anything. I wish I would have took that time a little bit more serious. And from the tools I learned from SYCB, be able to implement those, that right to left thinking into that time. And he also said, chase architects. I never thought I was really, because I did a lot of it off just my skill set and off my craftsmanship. Design these decks, design porches or remodeling rooms and kitchens and stuff. I just kind of did it off my own knack. I wish I would have took that advice a lot more serious, because that's actually my whole entire sales plan now, is to build relationships with architects and further those relationships.
Good advice. I can remember one of my very first bosses. I'd worked for him while I was in college, and I remember him saying, "Todd, let's go for a ride." And I jumped in his truck and we drove around. And he offered me a job. He wanted me to come work for him full time, and he gave me two pieces of advice. One was, Todd, never try to start your own business. Go find somebody who's close to retirement and just figure out some way to transition the business from them to you. And I thought, that's crazy. I don't want to do that. I want to do my own thing. This has got to be my own thing. And looking back on it, that was really good advice. And he also gave me some advice about what happens when you go to work for a really big company, which also turned out to be true. So I could have avoided some really painful, really expensive mistakes if I had just listened to Martin back in like 1997. So I doubt Martin is listening, but Martin, you were right. And thanks for sharing some advice. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to it. So for you young bucks out there who think you know it all and you need to do it your own way, listen to advice from people who have, if somebody has been in this industry 20, 30, 40 years and they give you advice, they're probably right. And you may want to listen to it. If you don't agree with it, one of you is probably wrong, and it's probably you. At least it could be you. Yeah. Jacob, you've gone through our Systematize Your Construction Business program. You're now in our CEO Alliance. So we've been working together for a little while now. If you go back to before you started working with us, what were some of the challenges, the frustrations, the things you were dealing with that led you to reach out to us initially?
I was really experiencing all of them, being stuck in the middle of the machine. I was not only delegating all the responsibilities of dealing with the clients, but I was also on top of accounting, on top of actually, the guy that was producing the work in the field. So self-performing all the work. And then not only that, but trying to schedule everything, order materials. Man, I was just ran ragged all the time. I also had some employees at the time that just I wasn't getting the most out of them, right? Because I was just their buddy, more or less. Because when you're in the field working with them every single day, you can instill bad habits really quick, right? Because they kind of see you for where you're at, and I wouldn't say you lose respect, but you just lose a lot of the momentum on letting them become leaders on their own and keeping it as a professional setting. So a lot of that, all those things were happening, and realistically, the major thing that happened was I was involved in a motorcycle accident. And at that time, during that motorcycle accident, I was no longer physically able to do the production, and something had to change. I was forced with the decision that something had to change. And so, I pretty much laid everybody or fired everybody in the company, downsized as much as I could, and used what little resources I had to say, hey, I want to start this thing over and I want to try to do something different. And I stumbled across one of your videos and was like, it just spoke volumes to me. It had all, checked all the boxes I needed it to check. And so I took some kind of a little bit of blind faith, but also from what I was experiencing, said, all right, this is the route we're going to go.
So you had a motorcycle accident, and then you had a rotator cuff injury. It sounds like some of the more pivotal moments you've gone through with your business have been related to injuries, which I don't know if that's a great strategy I would recommend. It sounds like you made the best of those injuries, but yeah, interesting part of the journey. What was the worst part about what you were dealing with before we started working together?
I could never reach my revenue targeted goals. Looking back on it now, like I had issues staying consistent with work. I had issues with filling in those gaps. And I was always complaining because it's like, how am I supposed to do this if I'm out here working in the field? How am I supposed to make calls to new clients and follow up and do that stuff if I'm having to focus my attention on the job that's in front of me? So I felt like that was mostly the main issues. And I knew that I could do all these things without actually having to work in the field. And so that's when I stumbled across your videos and really your guys' program, when I was like, okay, this is where I want to spend my time on trying to fill that gap.
A couple of follow-up questions on that. What I've found is that a lot of people are stuck in a situation because they have some wrong beliefs, or they have some beliefs that are holding them back. They believe some things that are not true. I'm curious, looking back on it, did you have any limiting beliefs back then that you realize now were holding you back?
Yeah, I believed for a long time, when I sold projects, I was actually selling myself more than just the service. And so I get stuck on the idea of that I had to be there the whole time, or the client was expecting me to do all the work. Because there was times, but I was like I was ultimately training my clients to have those expectations, right? And so it was relearning my process and kind of coming into it as like, no, this is my role, and I'm going to do my best at the role that I have. And this is my team, and this is my team's role, is what really kind of transpired after joining the program. But it was definitely a belief I had before that was always always hindered me.
And if you believe that the customer is buying you and that you have to be there all the time, you have to be involved in every part of the project, you have to respond to every phone call, you will be stuck. Because if that's the case, you believe you have to be involved with everything and you can't hand it off to anybody, which makes you the bottleneck. So you joined our Systematize Your Construction Business program. Take us to the moment when you realized that the systems you were implementing from that program and that the changes you were making in your business were actually working to solve some of those challenges.
It really happened within the first week. I mean, it wasn't even just a system, just being able to be part of that group call, see other companies going through what I was going through, to identify the similarities, and then being able to dive right into the toolbox in the week one on your guys' platform and being able to like write out what my goals are, where I'm like getting direction, right? Like having a little bit of direction off some of those first assignments were huge for me because it was like it was me laying the foundation of what I was building. And that was so motivating for me personally. I've had these like visions and these ideas and these motives in my head for so long. I just never knew how to get there. And so just by having that support from the team and Leah especially and Monish for coaching me and spending that time with me and making me be very specific on what we're putting down on that paper because I tend to lump a lot of things into one, and that's not ever hasn't been the keys to my success. Keys to my success has been breaking those down into specifics, and so then I can break them apart and actually achieve them the way that they need to be achieved.
A lot of people join our program for the content, for the systems, for the results, and then they're like, holy cow, there's this whole community. We've got these group calls with all these other people that they weren't even expecting to get much value from. What was the best part for you about those weekly group calls?
A lot of it is, I would say, first off, would be the camaraderie, right? Like, there's times when I may need the support, but also being able to support others to continue to fight for what we're doing. We made an investment to do this, and also a commitment, and it's like let's hold each other accountable. I'm here for your moral support if you need it. Not saying I'm a psychiatrist by no means or anything like that, but like just being passionate and bringing that energy. I see all of us come from different walks of life and are different phases in their business. Some are at make three, four times as much as I do, but I still provide, like knowing that I still provide value to the group was really big to me as an individual to motivate me and know I'm heading in the right direction.
Let's talk about some of the specific changes that you made, some of the specific systems and processes you put in place. What would you say were the top 2 or 3 systems or processes that have had the most positive effects for you and your team?
I'd say the right to left thinking was big, right? Like when making decisions, where are we going with this? So that really helped narrow down the fear of making decisions and whatever that I was faced with before. Because a lot of times I would get balked on or stumped. What's the next best move? What's the next best thing? And by using that right to left thinking, that 2 year outcome, right? And being able to break that down all the way to quarterly goals and stuff like that, it just simplifies the whole process. So it keeps me targeted, focused on what my MITs are and where I need to focus most of my attention. The other ones would definitely be the CEO schedule. CEO schedule was life changing for me. Like I said before, my regular work week would be 40 hours in the field, if not more, and then 8 hours a day afterward, so 16 hours a day pretty much trying to manage both sides of the business, the office and the field. And so this time by creating a CEO schedule, I got to remove myself from what I didn't need to be spending my time on, be able to delegate some of those responsibilities out and focus my time and my schedule on the things that were most important to me. That was huge for me. And not only that, there's also personal stuff that's in my schedule now, hitting the gym, eating healthy, meditation, other things like that that really help my overall sanity. And those little habits really start adding up over a period of time, right? It's like I always use the metaphor of working out. You never see instant results within the first month, 2 months, 3 months, but over 6 months, 8 months, a year, those little habits of going to the gym multiple times a week, staying consistent really start adding up to where you can see the result.
Hey guys, Todd here. If you own a custom home building or remodeling business, let me ask you a few questions. First, how often do you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about project details, financial issues, or something else about your business and you can't go back to sleep? Are you spending more than 10 hours a week working in the business, wearing multiple hats, putting out fires, and you feel like you can't work on your business as much as you want? Number 3, do you have enough documented systems and processes, or is it all in your head? Number 4, how good is your handoff of projects from the office to the field? Are you getting hammered by the just enough to start trap, doing just enough to start? And then lastly, do you feel stuck? Do you feel like you need to grow, but you're scared to? And you don't know how to do it? Maybe it feels like you need to hire, but you're afraid to make a mistake and you're worried you can't afford to hire somebody. Well, if any of that resonates with you, you're not alone. And if you want to make your business a source of more freedom and a source of less stress, to systematize your construction business. And our team here at Construction Leading Edge has helped over 300 builders and remodelers systematize their business, and we can help you too. The first step is to schedule a call with my team by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply. That's constructionleadingedge.com/APPLY, or you can send a text to this number, 877-755-2410 with the word apply. That's 877-755-2410. Just text the word apply and we'll get back to you. Now, let's get back to our episode. Big part of the Systematize Your Construction Business program is nailing the handoff. What did that do for your team? What sort of results have you seen from having a good pre-construction process and nailing the handoff?
It was like instant clarification. And it also really helped bring the difference between the field to the office responsibilities. So it separated it all for us, because with the time we did all the work. So we were really relying on doing it that way, keeping it all in house and that stuff. And when we broke it down to that regard, and we had everybody putting the tabs on the table and nailing the handoff, it really showed like where our attention really needed to be. It wasn't the field, it wasn't the production anymore. It was really in the pre-construction, right? And all the front end stuff, that all the tasks that are on the front end to get that information for the field so we can nail the handoff was huge for us. And that's when it really changed the pretty much the whole idea of what we were doing and how we could do it better.
Right to left thinking, putting your CEO schedule in place, nailing the handoff have been keys. What have been some of the ripple effects, maybe things you didn't expect to see happen as a result of the work you've done?
Our revenue goals have definitely been on track. So some of the side effects really are the stuff that has come up that was kind of unexpected was I was able to put myself on payroll. So, and I haven't been able to do that in I think about a year and a half. Like I've made, still made my draws and stuff like that, but it hasn't been consistent. It's been a lot of investing my time and energy and money back into the business. And so now I'm actually, on the last, I think, 5 months, ever since I really started the program, I've been able to consistently get paid, which is big. And we're pretty much already at the revenue marks that we were doing for the past 3 years. So, which is huge, and we still have to finish out quarter 3 and quarter 4. So we're pretty much in my eyes, like, 2/3 of the way through, or, a little over half the way through. And we still have a lot of room to continue to push. So hitting revenue goals was big. Not only that, but we've gotten to shake the team up quite a bit. So the guys that I may have not have had as much belief in, no offense, have surprised me and shown me their true skills and what they have to offer, and I've been able to really focus my attention on those individuals and downsize the business overhead and just keep investing into the ones that are worth investing into.
How has that affected your team? What's different about your team's performance or your team's morale now that you've put these systems in place?
The morale's a lot better. It's not angry Jacob anymore. It's not, angry disgruntled Jacob anymore because I mean I'm always a joy to work with as well, but it was challenging to see me go through those tough times. I'm pretty sure if I put myself in their shoes, it could be inspirational but also very challenging. It wasn't I wouldn't say a very healthy work environment. So now it's like I let them do their thing. I don't really get super overly overcritical involved into how they handle their business. I just set the expectations and lay out the milestones that we need to achieve and how we get there. I'm excited to see how we get there. And that's based on how they want to go about it. And that's where it's been, I would say, the most rewarding for them is being able to take that responsibility on their own and grow.
Let's talk about what's different about your business now versus before you started. What are some of the measurable or quantitative results you've seen? Revenue, profit, team size, schedule durations, things you can actually measure that are different after the work you've done to the extent you're comfortable sharing.
Measurable would be revenue. The last 3 years, we've been consistently hitting around anywhere from 550 to 650 a year, 650K a year. We're already at, I believe, a little over 650 for this year. And that was coming in on a, motorcycle accident, all these things, implementing the SYCB program. So I really feel like we came at that even at a deficit for this year, and we're already surpassed those numbers from the last previous years, and we're on track to hitting our 1.2 million goal this year. So I'm excited about that. I'm like really in awe that we can do that. The other part of it would probably be, I would say, my time. My time is extremely valuable, right? And it's almost like I have a little bit of guilt behind it because coming from working in the field as much as I did, and now I'm pretty much a stay-at-home dad for the most part, and we're blowing our revenue goals out of the water and stuff like that. It's just that was a huge measurable item for me. It was like, holy cow, I haven't even had to leave the house. I'm able to set this time aside, work from home. I've been able to enjoy the summer with my kids. And not saying that as like in a selfish way. I mean, because that's where my guilt comes in. I'm kind of like, how the heck did I get that? But it's more or less, it's just how I've built. This is how it's kind of transpired to become, and has built its way into my life, and I love it. And that's why I always emphasize the CEO schedule of being such an important tool to really hone in on.
So let's talk about your time before SYCB. How many hours a week were you working? And then after SYCB, like right now, what does your typical work schedule look like?
Before SYCB, I was, like I said, anywhere from 60 to 70 hours a week, easy, no problem. In the weeks that I didn't, there was definitely a lack in pay because if the work's not getting completed, money's not coming in. Now, my weeks can vary, but most of the time I'm averaging probably 30 hours a week. I kind of have a more like a routine throughout my CEO schedule that I just maintain, and I've been able to get everything done that I need to get done in those time frames. And I've been consistently probably around 30 hours a week.
While increasing your revenue year over year by what percentage? 75% increase, something like that.
Yeah,
Is that right? Yeah.
I think that's pretty accurate.
See, a lot of people don't think that's possible. They think, well, to grow my business means more hours and more headaches and more stress. What would you say to folks who believe that?
I mean, I was a believer of that myself. And I mean, I know there's times when I could be doing more. It doesn't mean that I'm going to yield more of a profit. It's all about actually maximizing your profitability off the time that you're investing. And so I would tell them that they're wrong, right? Because I hear that, I see that with so many of the younger guys or guys that are contractors that reach out to me and ask, what's different? What are you doing? And and then they'll get motivated and tell me about some of the projects that they want to invest into or jobs they want to do. I look at it like I just stop looking at things in the moment or one project at a time and really look at the bigger picture. Like, what's your 2-year goal? What's your 5-year goal? What's your 1-year goal? Are you tracking with that instead of being stuck project to project? Because I feel like that's where a lot of times they're like, oh, if I can hurry up and just dedicate all my time to getting this one done, I'll make all the money in the world or whatever. And, you're rich for a moment and then you spent no time investing into the next project or scheduling 2 other projects during that one project. And, you actually didn't maximize your profit. So that's where it really became evident to me.
Some results can't necessarily be measured. And I've heard it said that not everything that matters can be measured, and not everything that you can measure really matters. What are some of the results that you've seen that can't necessarily be measured? Not revenue, not time, some of those things that are impossible to measure, but still really matter.
I'd say my health, for one, me personally, my health is really not only from the motorcycle accident, but just the stress from the situation I was in, the amount, like how hard I was really writing myself and stressing myself out over all these things was the biggest one. Like today, I don't feel those stresses. I don't have as hard time falling asleep. And I actually am in therapy now. I have time for my sessions. I'm not twice a month, but just personally, just trying to grow has been huge, right? And to challenge myself to really be okay with just where I'm at with what I'm doing and not stressing myself out. My stress was bad. I was being diagnosed for multiple different things, and all that is caused from stress. So those things have now resided. Went in and got my levels checked, all my liver, everything has been, levels have come back normal now. That was one huge relief. Like I was working on an early grave really quick. Now I can truly say that I'm not in fear of that anymore. The other part would be probably my home. My home is a way happier home with me being here as much as I am. I can see the impact it's having on my kids. I can see the impact on it's having on my friends and also my social lifestyle and my outside immediate family too. Like I'm available and able to be there and not only financially help but be there physically, which has been awesome.
Those results are directly correlated to how good of an implementer you are. And the reality is information alone is pretty much useless without implementation. And you've done a good job of implementing. So I'm curious, what would you say are a couple of the keys to implementing systems and processes that result in meaningful change? A lot of people struggle with implementation. Like, how do I stick to it? How do I get my team on board? How do I get this stuff to actually show up? What are a couple of the keys to implementing systems and processes that you would share with folks listening?
Part of implementation is creating these habits that you will not see results from right away. You will not see the results right away. And you may not even understand how these are benefiting in those moments. But over time and being consistent and continually doing them, that's when the results really start to fall into place. And so one reason why I felt like I had a leg up on that was because 90% of the habits and the systems I started implementing were exactly what the successful company was doing that I worked for. So these were already like little things that I saw. So believing in them was second nature for me. So that's when it was like a big deal was these habits, these little routines that you implement into your company have such a big impact over time and really help streamline everything.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think a lot of people believe that putting systems in place is a one-time event. Like we're gonna do this, we're gonna put systems and processes in place, and we'll be done. And it's just like a one-time event, but it's really, as you said, it's a habit. It's like I find myself telling my now adult children, like, look, organization is not an event. It's not something you do once every 2 weeks or once a month. It's more of a lifestyle. You are organized and you have a habit of being organized. And it's the same way with systems and processes. It's not something you do once and forget about it. It's something you do every day. Every time you respond to an email or every time you fill in the blank, it really is a habit. Yeah, that's great advice. What are some specific habits that have worked for you that you might recommend folks try?
The number one habit would be the weekly review. Having a weekly review with your team has been extremely pivotal for me for the most part. That alone has changed the outcome of my business and the organization across the board for having everybody on the same page and providing not only maximizing my time, being able to be of support for every part of my business and being involved in every part of my business, but also keeping the expectations where they need to be, focusing our attention on the MITs, consistently using the improvement plan across the board and then reviewing that every week. Another fundamental tool has been the revenue maximizer. When the revenue maximizer was introduced to me, I fell in love immediately. I was like, where has this been my whole life? This is like the secret code to success right here. And it was really by using that not only monthly, but I use it actually weekly. I know that's a little extreme, but what we do is we review every week on the execution plans. And so I can actually measurably be able to bill out what we need to bill out and hit our targets.
I've heard people talk about the revenue maximizer. I'm a little concerned about some of the words they use, like I'm obsessed with it. I fell in love with it, but it's a good thing. It's a healthy relationship, and it's really been helpful for a lot of
It
people.
is.
Let's talk about the CEO Alliance a little bit. You went through SYCB, Systematize Your Construction Business. You were a great implementer there. You were a good candidate for CEO Alliance. So, how would you describe the CEO Alliance in your own words, and what has being in that group done for you?
It really helped improve, mostly, I would say, as of right now, the revenue maximizer. As a team, we review them and we go over them, but more or less, the CEO Alliance is that accountability I needed as an individual. There's a lot of times when I may take unnecessary, if I'm left to my own devices for too long, I may not know if this is what's needed of me, what's best of me at the moment, right? Like, so having a little bit of that hands on guidance, not only from the coach, but also from group was very important for me, and it kept me also. It felt like, because I don't know, I didn't want there to be a gap. I didn't want to lose what I had from the SYCB program that I had before, and that was like the weekly call or the monthly call, the group setting. I didn't want to lose that. That was a very, like I said, it was inspirational to me. It made me feel part of, and it really helped hold me accountable on continuing on the journey. So I would say that was really it. But mostly that revenue maximizer we spend a lot of time on. But not only that, I've also done one-on-one calls not only with the coach, but with other members from the team to help improve areas of my business and also to help improve and give insight on theirs. And that was been huge to know that, not only my recommendations could bring value, but theirs bring value as a team. So it was great.
So, what are a couple of the big hairy goals that you're focused on right now in your business? Maybe they're not that big and hairy. They don't have to be big and hairy, but what are some of the goals that you're focused on?
Mostly the revenue, hitting our targeted goals. Like we had a 12-month goal list. Part of that was hitting, 1.2 million for the year was number one goal, and we're still working on that. Also was establishing relationships with architects. I wanted, you know, I think 3 to 5 strong working relationships with architects. And right now I have 2 architects that I've consistently been in contact with. I call five I call 5 architects a week, new firms, to try to build relationships with them and to develop these relationships every week. And so over a course, of I think the last 2 months, we've been slowly chipping away at it. As you know, as it takes time to build those relationships and to build that trust and that type of confidence with one another. It's a long journey, but we've been going strong on that. And the other one would be still working on our implementation. That's our processes grow as the company grows. We find loopholes and little things like that. But one really critical advice Leah gave me, and I think that you've outlined, was pick 5 things, 3 to 5 things. What are those 3 major 3 to 5 things? And that's kind of what we did for our year goal this year was like, let's just pick 3 to 5 things that really matter this year. And then next year we can hopefully have those behind us and then we can implement new goals for next year. So if that's some more implementation next year, that's fine. But focusing on the revenue is one, 'cause you've got to have to be able to make money to pay for all this. And then 2, finding the ideal client has been big, which is in my eyes as an architect. And then I would say 3 was accounting. I definitely had underqualified employees working for me before and caused quite a headache for us on the accounting. So we've been spending, I believe, like the last 2 months on reconciling and getting everything dialed in and revamped on accounting all the way back from when we started in 2021. So imagine, 3 years, we've had to reconcile 3 years of business and clean that stuff up and really get it dialed in to where we can know confidently move forward has been an undertaking. And we had a goal of completing it by August 1st. We're close, but we didn't make it entirely. So we moved it out till September 1st. But we've been able to reach out to some of those last little loopholes, and we're really close to having that done.
Some people feel like they have to say yes to everything, like every shiny object that comes along, every opportunity that comes along. But it seems like you have a pretty short list and you're saying no to a lot of other stuff. How has saying no to things, whether it be wrong clients, wrong employees, wrong opportunities, how has saying no helped you, if at all?
It's hard to do it. Like I totally get it. I love helping people, which is probably one of my biggest downfalls when it comes to running a business. I'm so easy to be, wanting to contribute and help, but saying no is powerful. It gives you control to invest your time and make those sound decisions to where they're going to be the most, not only just profitable, but be the most feasible for where we're at in our situation. It's been a big help. I remember when I believe you even brought that up in one of the group calls back in SYCB. It really changed my perspective on that. It was, what is your ideal client, right? Like, remember when we talked about that? And I was like, I never had one because I've always been married to doing whatever comes across my plate. And I actually have the power to say no today. Even if my books aren't backlogged all the way till 2025, I'm very selective on what we're taking. By using the revenue maximizer, I always highlight that. I can actually, in my sales plan, it really highlights where my attention needs to be. So it's been a very powerful tool to say no. And I've also seen, because a lot of times when you're saying yes to everything, you're selling yourself short. It's okay if this client can't afford you. It's okay if this client doesn't understand your process or doesn't believe in your process. That's part of that feasibility agreement that we go through, and making sure that, you know, the client meets my needs just as much as I meet theirs.
What's one thing you believe to be true about business that some people might think is unconventional, maybe even a little crazy?
I would say, resorting back to like when we were talking about what my work week looks like today, we've hit our revenue goals off 30 hours, a week of my time. Something that's unconventional, I would say, would be knowing where your time is best spent. Doesn't always isn't always what you believe in to be the what you think is best time spent. Like I said, there's so many guys that will get like a high paying, high profiting project and just overindulge themselves in that project, and like try to do it as cheap as possible and dedicate all their time into it as possible. And in turn, they just ran themselves ragged. Sometimes their quality goes down. All these things, I can go, the list can go on what can go wrong. And I've found that what I do today and what I did in the past are black and white, completely different. Where my time is spent today is so much more different than where it was in the past. So just finding out, I would say it's hard to put into one word, but just knowing where your time is best spent. And it's not always just in production, right? Like it's sometimes I still have a hard time believing it, but it's like in delegating and passing responsibility are the most awesome tools that I use today.
Great advice. Great advice. Couple of rapid fire questions. First of all, what is a book that you feel like every construction business owner should read?
10 Habits of Successful Individuals, I believe is the name of the book.
Is it the
Or I could be off a little bit.
Seven Habits of Highly
Yes.
Successful People? The old book? Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one. Okay.
Yep. I recently finished reading that book, and it's changed a lot for me. It was really good. I'm in the middle of reading the Times 10 as well. That's been really good. I would recommend that. That's mostly it. I've also read some self-help books like The Body Keeps the Score. That's been pretty helpful when you are running a business and you're under a lot of stress. I think finding books to help, you know, manage your stress and pay attention to your body is big too. Those are the ones I would suggest.
If somebody is ever traveling in your area, I always like to ask people, where's the restaurant or the bar that people should visit if they're ever in your area? So, first part of that question is, what's the biggest city close to where you live? And then, what bar or restaurant would you recommend they hit if they're ever passing through?
I would say Seattle. I'm actually a Seattleite. So I'm from Seattle. I grew up in Seattle. So I know a lot of the little uh, dive bars and little hidden gems around that area. A restaurant in particular I actually grew up working at is Thai Oceans. Thai Oceans is right next to Green Lake in North Seattle. It's a Thai restaurant, family owned. The lady is actually from Thailand, and came over here and started the business, and she's still going strong. She's got amazing, authentic food, and it's in a great area. It's at one of the most populated parks that we have in Washington, and it's an amazing park to visit, and it's a good atmosphere. The other one would be Spud's Fish and Chips. It's another restaurant I grew up next to and actually worked at as a young age, and it's been, part of the Seattle community for a very long time. I believe they're over 50 years now, if any, and they're a little different than Ivers. It's more of a traditional base, but it's really good food. Fish and chips is great. The only other one I could say, if you're a little bit on the higher end or classier end would be Aqua by El Gacho. That's an amazing restaurant, great ambiance down on the pier in Seattle, downtown Seattle.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, last question for you. If somebody's thinking, you know what, I'm considering joining the Systematize Your Construction Business program, but I'm on the fence. I'm not sure what I should do. What advice would you give to them?
Ask yourself why. Why do I want to join this group first? What am I looking to accomplish? If you're looking to have somebody else fix it all for you, this may not be the right fit. This is solely based on the hard work that you put in. Nobody in this group is going to do it for you, but they will help guide you. They will help give you the tools you need to get to where you want to go, and they'll help actually clarify where you want to go through some of the tools and questions that they ask. That's really it. I would be really specific, and because I already know their answer would be, oh, yeah, I could do that. Because anybody that starts their own business usually are pretty driven individuals. I I have seen some people actually come into this program too and hire an implementer and somebody to help build it with them, know their strong suits, know what's not, and also still remain very successful. So again, like I said, I came into this as a pretty much on my own as a one-man team, and now grown to a five-man team, and a lot of healthy habits have been instilled into this or into me and my process, and is I've been able to gain an amazing life schedule that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't prior to this program.
But it's definitely a direct result of how committed you are, the time and the effort you put into it, and ultimately implementing this stuff. So it's been a lot of fun to watch you grow, and we look forward to continuing to watch you grow and seeing the results you get as part of the CEO Alliance. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here, Jacob. If folks want to follow you, connect with you somewhere on the interwebs, where are some of the best places for them to go?
You can find us at Richmond_Construction_LLC. That's our webpage. And then you can also find us on Facebook or Instagram is a great source to find us and reach out at any time.
Got it. I will include those links in the show notes. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, it'll be in the description. Or if you're listening on a podcast player, check the show notes out for all the notes for this. So Jacob, I really appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time to be on here, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Todd.
Hey, it's Todd here. And one more thing before you go. Look, if you own a construction business and you want to put the right systems in place so you can either scale it up, maybe you want to step away from it, be able to take a proper vacation, maybe you want to sell it someday, maybe you just want to have more freedom, or maybe make it more profitable, or maybe you just want to get out of constant firefighting mode and make your phone stop ringing all the time. You really have three options if you want to make a meaningful change in your business. Option one is do nothing. Status quo, keep doing the same things, getting the same results. Option two, you can DIY it. You can do it yourself. You can reinvent the wheel. You can read books, listen to podcasts, try to piece together a solution, use trial and error. Or option number three, if you want meaningful change, is to find a proven system that delivers the results you're looking for. Sort of like if you use software for project management or for your bookkeeping, I assume you probably didn't try to code your own software. You found a proven system that delivered the results you're looking for, right? Well, if you're looking for a proven system to systematize your business, we've helped hundreds of construction business owners implement our systems in their business, specifically our nail the handoff pre-construction process in their business. It works for home builders, remodelers, commercial general contractors. It also works really well for trade contractors like electricians, concrete contractors, site, utility, plumbing. And it's part of our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So if you want to see what systematizing your business looks like, what nailing the handoff looks like, and the positive side effects that come with that, then the next step would be to schedule a free business evaluation call with my team. And you could do that by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, or just go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and tap the Apply Now button. You'll learn about the 5-step process we've helped hundreds of people implement to systematize their construction business. Most importantly, you'll get an objective third-party evaluation of your business to answer one really big question. Is your business designed to fail, or is it designed to succeed? So let me ask you this. If your business was unintentionally designed to fail, when would you rather find out? Now, while there's time to do something about it, or later on when it's maybe too late? This business evaluation call is totally free. There are no strings attached, no pressure. And it could be the best hour you've spent working on your business in a long time. So our schedule fills up pretty quickly. So if you're interested, go over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or go to constructionleadingedge.com and tap the Apply Now button to book your business evaluation call. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you got value out of this podcast. If you could take a moment, if you did, and leave a rating or a review or share this with somebody who needs to hear it, I would appreciate it. Todd Dawalt from Construction Leading Edge. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.